Today, I'd like to continue to look at Paul and Timothy and their relationship, and especially focus in on several of Paul's instructions for Timothy as a young pastor in Ephesus of how to handle the Word of God. There are lots of difficulties surrounding Timothy. Paul had many difficulties, and Paul is telling Timothy the foundation is the Word of God, and that's what we teach from. That's how we learn. That's how we lead. So in 2 Timothy uh, chapter 2, verse 15, Paul's telling Timothy, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. This is the word of truth, and we have to know how to handle the Word of God. This is the offensive weapon that we have in our battle that we have in the spiritual world. So, what does it mean to correctly handle the Word of God? Well, I like to use illustrations from sports. I myself was a wrestler, so the hands are very important. You need to have a strong grip, but it also needs to be flexible. So in order to be a good athlete in many sports, especially racket sports or ball and bat sports like cricket or baseball or tennis or squash, some of these sports, the grip is very important. And obviously, in the fighting sports, your hands are of utmost importance. So how do we handle the Word of God? Well, I use the illustration in wrestling. I need to use all five fingers when I'm wrestling. And each of these fingers gets a little stronger, and then you also have to use the thumb. So when I'm trying to get a hold of the Word of God, get a good grip on the Word of God, I use my whole hand. And the way I use that as a simple illustration is I like to take my hand, and I've done this in many situations. I've done this in fast food restaurants where I just turn over the placemat or use a napkin even or whatever. So I just take my hand and then I go around my fingers and I draw out my hand. And then I take a look at these five things. Now, how can we best get a grip on the Word of God? Well, one of the ways is to hear the Word of God. Now, when you go to church, or even for me, I like to listen to it on my cell phone when I'm walking the dog, or when I'm out walking with one of my grandchildren. I like to, especially if it's the youngest one who doesn't need attention. I'm pushing the baby buggy. I like to listen to the Word of God. So we hear the Word of God. And that gives us a good overview. Today, my wife was cutting my hair, and we put on 1st and 2nd Timothy, and we're listening to that as she cut my hair. It doesn't take so long because I don't have much on top, but she does around the ears. So we need to hear the Word of God. The second thing is that we need to read the Word of God. Every day I try to spend some time reading the Word of God, and for many of you, you might read the Word of God on your cell phone or on your computer or your tablet. I like to do it the old-fashioned way and read it on the parchment papers of my Bible. The third thing is to study. That's getting us even deeper, to study the Word of God. You need to ask questions. What does it say? What does it mean? What should I do? What should I change? And take notes and write it down. The fourth thing, which gets us even deeper, is we need to memorize. We need to memorize the Word of God. The way I learned to do it 40 some years ago when I was in college is I would write down the address, the verse number, I'd write out the passage, and then I'd write down the verse at the end, and then I'd put the topic on the top. And then I've got stacks of these. Then you can put them in your pocket and read them and memorize them and work over them. We need to hide the Word of God in our heart. And then the most important one in your sport, or especially in your Christian life, is you need to to apply it. You need to meditate on it. You need to chew it. You need to memorize it and apply it. So apply the Word of God. So what we're doing is we're hearing it, we're reading it, we're studying it, we're memorizing it, but all this stuff is up here. This is all head knowledge. We need to learn it, but then we need to love it. We need to memorize it, and then we need to live it. So it needs to go from the head to the heart, into the hands, and bring it home. Have a great day.